There's a moment in adult life that almost no one prepares you for. It doesn't arrive when you're broke. It doesn't arrive during chaos. It arrives when things are finally starting to work. Bills are paid. Income is stable. Nothing is actively collapsing. And yet, your body doesn't relax. There's still tension in your chest, a quiet pressure in your thoughts, a subtle fear you can't fully explain, and the question that appears is unsettling. If I'm okay, why don't I feel okay? Most people assume money solves anxiety. But what they discover, often too late, is this: money changes the shape of psychological pressure. It doesn't remove it. This video is not about how much you have. It's about what each level of wealth does to your nervous system, your identity, and your sense of safety in the world. Because every stage carries a psychological cost. And understanding that cost changes everything. There is a level of financial stress where money stops being about goals and becomes about survival, not dramatic survival, not dramatic survival. Quiet survival. The kind where nothing is technically wrong, but nothing feels safe either. At this stage, the nervous system never fully turns off. Even during calm moments, the body remains slightly braced. You think about numbers constantly. You rehearse worst-case scenarios automatically. You feel relief when problems don't happen instead of peace. This is not overthinking. It is biology. Financial uncertainty activates ancient threat systems in the brain. Historically, loss of resources meant exposure, abandonment, danger. So your brain treats financial instability like physical risk. And when that state lasts long enough, something subtle happens. Decision quality drops, not intelligence. Not intelligence. Not capability. Clarity. The brain prioritizes immediate relief over long-term strategy, which is why people in this stage sometimes make decisions they later regret. Not because they're irresponsible, because their nervous system is overloaded. There's also a wound here few people name. The feeling of being behind where you expected to be, behind who you thought you would become. That comparison creates shame, even when life circumstances were complex and unpredictable. And shame pushes behavior toward quick relief, because relief feels like dignity. Returning. The first realization that changes this stage is simple. You are not bad with money. Your nervous system has been protecting you. Winsterbrevs. People expect peace. But often, something else appears instead. Vigilance. Because now there is something to lose, and losing it feels unbearable. So behavior tightens. You monitor more closely. You hesitate more often. You avoid risks that once felt reasonable. Loss aversion grows stronger then. Ambition saving becomes emotional regulation. Each dollar stored feels like insulation against collapse. Spending, even when safe, can trigger guilt, not because the purchase is wrong, but because it threatens an identity you fought hard to build. The identity of being responsible. And here lies the internal conflict. Enjoyment feels dangerous. Relaxation feels irresponsible. So, pleasure is postponed. After one more milestone, after one more buffer, after one more layer of safety. But the milestone keeps moving, because anxiety doesn't disappear when stability arrives. It changes targets. True stability isn't rigid. It's flexible. And flexibility, not control, is what actually creates safety over time. There is a point where income grows, but confidence does not follow. Sometimes it decreases because growth exposes identity gaps. More money means more decisions, more visibility, more perceived risk. Questions begin to surface. Can I sustain this? What if this disappears? What if I'm not actually capable? What if people find out I don't know what I'm doing? This is why imposter syndrome often intensifies after success. External change happens faster than internal identity updates, and the nervous system prefers familiarity over improvement. So success can feel destabilizing. Some people unconsciously sabotage progress at this stage, not because they fear failure, because they fear becoming someone unfamiliar. The shift here is not confidence. It's identity anchoring, knowing who you are independent of outcomes. Because growth without identity stability feels unsafe, no matter how successful you appear. At higher levels of wealth, something unexpected happens. Pressure doesn't disappear, it redistributes. Now you are the buffer. Others depend on you. Systems rely on you. Mistakes affect more people. Responsibility expands. Trust becomes complicated. You begin filtering what you share because vulnerability feels risky. Some relationships subtly change. Power differences create distance. Expectations increase. Assumptions form. People may see your resources, but not your pressure and internal. Freedom can quietly shrink. You can solve problems faster than ever, yet feel more alone than before. The critical distinction here is between financial responsibility and emotional over-responsibility. You can hold resources without holding everyone else's emotional weight. Wealth does not require self-erasure. It requires boundaries that protect your humanity. Eventually, if enough stability exists, something surprising appears. Silence without constant financial pressure. Deeper questions surface. What motivates me now? What gives my days meaning? Who am I when survival isn't driving me? This is the transition from financial freedom to psychological autonomy. Freedom removes constraint. Autonomy creates meaning. Many people reach freedom before autonomy, and that gap feels confusing because the system that organized life, striving, achieving, accumulating, is no longer dominant. So recalibration begins. Slow, uncomfortable quiet. This is not loss of ambition. It is identity evolution, and it often becomes the most meaningful stage of all. Integration, the truth that brings relief. None of these patterns appeared overnight. They accumulated across years. Family beliefs, cultural expectations, moments of fear, moments of pride, moments where money meant safety, Understanding this is not about blame. It's about relief. You weren't broken. You were conditioned. And conditioning can change slowly, respectfully, without urgency. Financial behavior improves naturally when psychological pressure decreases, because clarity returns when threat softens. Closing, the real definition of wealth. Each level of wealth carries a psychological cost. None is a finish line. From survival to preservation, to expansion, to responsibility, to meaning. Money never stops interacting with identity. It simply asks different questions at each stage. And perhaps the most mature realization is this: the work was never about money. It was about stability inside yourself. No matter what happens outside. If this reflection felt familiar, that familiarity is not weakness. It's awareness. And awareness is where change begins. If you think deeply about money, not just numbers, but identity, pressure, and the passage of time, this channel was created for you, not to tell you what to do, but to help you understand what's happening inside you while you navigate adulthood. If that resonates, subscribe and take Orchimieri.